Okay, I'm going to touch on a few ideas of how we can use color. Of course, this is an object you're familiar with at this point. I have light coming in from this side of the room coming this way, creating light on this side of the pear, and then shadow on that side of the pear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the pear. And I'm going to show you a couple different versions of this. So I'm going to start by just drawing some shapes. There are two circles to draw the pear. Connect these together. I'm just using a graphite pencil, right? The other objects, or the other materials that I have here for us to use are a modest set of pastels, okay? These are new pastels. They're inexpensive, they work pretty well, and they're what's called a hard pastel. There are soft pastels and there are hard pastels. This would be considered a hard pastel. All right, get them out of the box there. There we go. So what I'm going to do is, these sticks come in 3 or 4 inch lengths. What I'm going to do is just break a piece off that's about 1 inch long. And of course I have a shadow coming out like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this little kit and find the color I think comes closest to the color of the pear. That's this green that I have here. So in other words, I want to look for a color that comes closest to the local color of the object. What color is that? What color is this? The local color of this would be red. For this, it would be green. Okay? And also, as we're talking about it, this is a darker red, so also the local value of this would be darker, and the local value of that would be lighter. All right? So I'm going to take the side of my pastel, and I'm going to give my pear some color, or my pear shape. So the first thing I told you is what was I drawing, right? I drew a shape of a pear, so that you begin to understand. Now I'm telling you something more about the pear. I'm telling you about its color. So I'm not drawing a yellow pear or a brown pear, but I'm drawing a green pear. So I'm taking the side of my little chunk of pastel and I'm giving it its local color. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of white and a little piece of black, and I'm going to start adding value to that. All right, so as light's coming in from this side for me, I'm going to add some light with my white. Get a small chunk of white, starting to add lighter values. This is keeping it simple, basic. And then some black here. I'm going to start to combine that with the green, these two pigments, these two pastels, to create value. Right, there we go. So notice again, I'm going to layer this. I'm going to just layer my pastels one over the other. Come in with the green now and work that black in. Work the white in. So I'm creating light and shadow. Okay, so I'm making my pear, in other words, a little more three-dimensional by using value. You want something to recede, make it darker. There we go. Now also, of course, there's a shadow on the table here. Shadow there. I'm going to then use my black and my white to create a gray. Alright, and remember that shadow goes all the way under the pear. It doesn't start over here. It starts over here underneath it. Okay? And I'll make it darker where it goes under the pear. Notice my shadow goes all the way up to the pear. It doesn't stop short. It doesn't create a little... You don't want that little white gap between your shadow and your object. That doesn't work. That doesn't create this illusion of it being three-dimensional. I'll come in here with some white. And as your shadow moves out and away from the object, it gets lighter and the edges become more diffused. As it gets closer to the object, it gets darker and more definite. The edges become less diffused, all right? So you begin to see how that shadow is going under the pear. Now, of course, I'll give our pear a stem. Now, the stem on that one is actually sort of a brown color, so I'm going to add some brown here. All right, again, the local color. And also, I'm going to add a little blush to this, because that pear has a little blush. Just like so. All right, I come back in with some green again. Layering it, layering it, layering it. Getting rid of the graininess of the paper too. So that really defeats the whole illusion. If you have the graininess of the paper is real grainy, you don't deal with that. It's a less effective. Now this edge, I want this edge to recede away from me. My lightest values are actually not at the edge. My highlights are inside the edge of the object. So I'm going to add a little bit of value to this edge to get that edge to curve away from your eye. Remember, dark recedes, right? If I do that a little bit, using my black and my green for that, it gets that edge to start to curve away, but you can't leave a line there. If you leave a line, that line will flatten out the object, right? So you want to get rid of that line. You want to just make it an edge. And your shape of your shadow and the shape of your light are going to be dependent on the shape of the object. So as I'm looking at my pear, I'm looking at the shape of these, the shadow versus the shape of the light, right? I could probably ramp this up, create a little more contrast here. There we go. Kind of three-dimensional, I hope. Shadow under here a little bit more. All right, and then I can add a little more green in there. And then I can add some highlights. So the highlights aren't at the edge, but a little bit in from the edge there and here. And as I step back and look at it, can I make this better? I always ask yourself, can you make your drawing better? The idea isn't that you're in a hurry, or you shouldn't be. The idea isn't you're not working on a drawing to finish it. You're working on a drawing to create the most, until you're done, which means you want to create the most effective result you can. Otherwise, what's the point, right? All right, there we go. So there's my pear. All right, so I'm going to do is stop this video, and I'll do another one. This time we're going to introduce complementary colors into the pear.